Hello, I'm Scott Grace, and I'm the author of a book called Mindful Masculinity. Ha ha! A book for men and the women who love them. And we're going to be talking about the election, toxic masculinity, and mindfulness, and how we can use the events on the outside world to grow inside, to take anything, whether it be smelly shit, turn it into fertilizer or let it be fertilizer for your own growth. No matter how crazy the world gets, you can use the craziness to find yourself, your strength, inner peace, and contentment that is not dependent on the world going a certain way. That's what mindfulness really is about. So, we have an election coming up in a few days. And I wrote a book when Trump was elected president called How to Evolve During the Trump Experience, Whether Humanity Joins You or Not. And it seems to be relevant right now that there's so much fear and anxiety on both sides. It's as if people are feeling and thinking that if the other side wins, it's going to take us down to the worst possible scenario, the end of the world. I mean, that's how people are like really, really coming from fear in this election rather than hope and vision. We're coming from choosing the candidate that will hurt less. And then that's not the best place to be, but it is what it is. So let's talk about what toxic masculinity has to do with this election. When I was growing up, there was this TV sitcom called All in the Family. And the main character, Archie Bunker, was just so back in the 1950s. And the show was in the 1970s and 80s. And it was a really playful, humorous thing where he just was a bigot. He was a fixed structure while the world kept changing and growing. And most of the jokes were about the contrast between how the world has matured, changed, accepted diversity, and how he dug his heels into the 1950s. So Donald Trump is a 50s man. He wants things to go back to the old days, the good old days, supposedly. And in the theme song for the sitcom, All in the Family, Archie Bunker sings as his wife is playing the piano, and you knew where you were then. Girls were girls and men were men. Now, isn't that interesting? Girls were girls and men were men. So whether Donald Trump, whatever comes out of his mouth, the sense that I get about him is that he is the essence of the old days of masculinity, where girls were girls and men were men. He doesn't acknowledge the strength of vulnerability, the power of the feminine within our brains and within our hearts, as men or women. He's totally, I'm going to fix the world through masculine values, old-fashioned masculine, like using resistance, force, strength. And there is something so many of us are moving towards in our individual evolution, and that is what I would call authentic power. Because when you have authentic power, there's several things that are important about that. One is you don't win at anyone else's expense. You're not out just for yourself. You recognize the independence and the joy that comes from valuing somebody's needs as much as your own, sometimes more so. It's a very spiritual approach. So what Donald Trump is like calling make America great again, let's withdraw from all this progress and just take care of ourselves. It's every country for himself is his consciousness. We're separate. We need to take care of ourselves instead of worrying about the whole world, which has value. There is some truth to that. And the way he wants to go about getting our country's needs met is very primitive. It's not. loving. And the whole world is moving towards more interdependence, taking care of each other, and living as one globe. And Donald represents how scary that is to some people, how just they just want to stop the world from moving so fast and hire Donald Trump to be our country's pit bull, our country's Doberman, the guard dog that makes sure our boundaries aren't crossed. And that's going to help people feel safer because they feel like progress is just too fast and too weird. And safety comes from being conservative, conserving the old. And on the other side are a bunch of people who actually want the same thing. They want a sense of safety and security. And their value system says we got to move towards the future. We got to keep moving and changing and falling on our face and then learning from our mistakes. But the progress is where we feel the most safe when we're progressing in evolution. So everybody wants the same thing, safety. It's just that there's two very diametrically opposed strategies for getting that need met. And there's a lot of economic fear, no matter what the people say about the economy getting better and better. There is the death of an American dream. And Donald acknowledges this, and it really helps people feel comfortable with him, like he's speaking for them, because he says the American dream is dead. And in some ways, he's right. Because if you go to college, if you get a job, then you'll be able to support your family, live your dreams, and go on vacations. The vast majority of the people I have seen out there are not able to do that. They do everything right, and they still can't make ends meet. And that's so frustrating. Like to do everything that this country promises you, your strategies, and then have them fail. And instead of feeling the guilt and blaming yourself, it's a lot easier and much more relieving to blame the party, the opposing party. Donald knows that when people are shaky economically, emotionally, that they would love to have an enemy they can project all their pain on and their fear and not have to look within. And this is toxic masculinity. Thou shalt not look within at what makes you tick. Another aspect of toxic masculinity is not valuing the feminine energy within yourself or within the world. And that's kind of what Donald does. He doesn't really care how much oil drilling, and he just wants to go for short-term solutions and never mind what it does to people on the other side of the border, never mind what it does to people's hearts or to the environment and the future of the planet. Very short-sighted. And whether Donald is elected or not, I believe that the momentum of the world is just going to continue to move towards more balance between masculine and feminine energy. Women are finding their voices and their power, and men eventually are going to have to step aside and let women own their power personally, have a voice, a vote, and a conscience that many men who are caught up in old ways of being masculine, manly men, have lost connection with their conscience because they've lost connection with their heart. And it's like in your heart, you know what serves life and what will bring the most peace, prosperity, and joy to the planet. And it's not looking out for yourself at the exclusion of the rest of the world. That's not a solution. That is a solution of the ego. It'll pump you up with a sense of separation, but then it creates more problems in the long run and even short term. So I want to share my hope with you, this vision I have that whether it be Trump or Kamala, we're going to be moving forward. It might be a little bumpier with one candidate, but there is it's like a rubber band. Sometimes we spring forward by going back. And when there is this rapid evolution going, there's always going to be a pushback. And if we have 4 more years of Donald, it's a pushback. It's like the rubber band is going to go backwards for a bit, and then there's going to be a spring forward. You you can't avoid evolution. And we have a planet that basically is we're at a fork in the road. We can continue to be alienated from the earth and not follow feminine values that serve life. Women give birth, they know how to nurture and care for life more than men who are just sort of trapped in the old definition of masculinity, which is very primarily left brain orientation, worshiping the intellect at the expense of the heart, serving the needs of an ego structure that feels separate from other people and from the world. It's old stuff, and it's dying, and it scares a lot of people, and so they want the pit bull in charge of the country. But we all want the same thing on both sides. We want to feel safe. We want our children to grow up in a healthy, safe world. We just have different strategies, but don't let that separate you from the other side, please. Whatever side you feel on, send caring, loving, compassionate energy to those that disagree with you. That's so much more important than who gets elected, is that we start to come out of these polarities and rise above this way of life where if people disagree with you and have different strategies for getting their needs met, that you're going to shut them out of your heart. Let's make a vow that no matter who is elected, who has the power, we're just going to love and respect people. Not necessarily their points of view. You can agree to disagree, but let's respect that we're all human. We're all doing our best. Everyone's got a part to play. And those that are, let's say, resisting the evolution are serving their part. They're pulling the rubber band back so that it may spring forward. So that's my story. I really encourage you to look at this book on Amazon, How to Evolve During the Trump Experience, Whether Humanity Joins You or Not. And on the back of the book, it says, Donald Trump is not a problem to be solved. He's an in-your-face wake-up call, a calling to evolve. As this book assists you to do your inner work, Trump may still be acting like an insensitive jerk, but he won't continue to jerk your chain because you'll have discovered how to remain in your peaceful, powerful, and playful center where love, joy, and immigrants can enter. So take that in. Whoever gets elected has no power. You preside. You are the presiding president over your United States of consciousness. And so this is an important election, no doubt about it, but it's not going to change your life when you take your power back from feeling like a victim of circumstances and presidents and politics. When you start going inside and get mindful of who you are, you're like you're a star. You are much more powerful than any president. Any president. So that's something to contemplate. I leave you with that, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.